Bonjour, and welcome to another episode of Cooper's Corner. Today I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about how I start my year in French. I really like French. I did late French immersion at LSS, so I tend to do maybe a bit more than I need to. So for some people, this French might last the whole year. And I do find it's actually taking me longer to get through it as years go by. Not sure why, but it's a good place to start, I think, for basic French. So I'm literally just gonna walk you through some of the things I do. On the very first day, I think it's important, I have this fun little poem, so you think French is hard to pronounce, and it's all about all the weird things in English, how words don't make sense. I say to the kids, why do I read this to you to start? I want them to recognize that learning any language is hard, learning English is very challenging, so we're just giving it a go. Then we talk about why we learn French. I have them brainstorm things like, to get a job, to meet new people, Canada's bilingual, or has 2 official languages, all these kinds of things. We talk, I don't read the article, but talk about how learning a new language, any language, is like working out your brain, building all these new neural pathways, and the younger you do it, the easier it is.
Tayden Fournier, can you please head to your OASIS class? Tayden Fournier to OASIS.
I then ask them if they know, if they've been told, if they have a younger sibling, if they remember, about at what age they learn to speak. And then about what age did they learn to read and write. And I want them to recognize that they were surrounded by whatever language, English, whatever else they learned first, all the time, 24 hours a day. And it still took them a year or 2 to learn to speak that language. It still took them 6 years, 7 years to learn to read that language. We are doing maybe 80 minutes of French a week. They're not gonna walk out of grade 6 French, grade 7 French, being fully able to speak confidently, fluently. But we're gonna learn a few things and hopefully build their confidence. So I structure the first, I say term, but it's probably going to bleed into the second term as well, around questions. So every class starts with some questions. It makes sense to start with comment t'appelles-tu, what's your name, je m'appelle. And then we're going to repeat that at the beginning of our class, and I'll show you how I do that. And this leads to my 2 larger assessments at the end. One is a dialogue. And yes, I have written out the parts for the dialogue. I can share that with you if you're interested. My first time I did French, I tried to let the kids write it. That was painful and unsuccessful. So I give them the dialogue, and that's something we've kind of practiced stuff like that already. So they're assessed on that, as well as assessed on a little project that's cute. They have a picture of a pet, and they talk about the pet. Let's start with the questions. So I'm happy to share any of the resources with you here. I tend to do similar things. Whenever I introduce a new question, I start with a little skit. Bonjour, comment t'appelles-tu? Bonjour, je m'appelle Miss Cooper. Comment t'appelles-tu? Je m'appelle Karen. Au revoir, au revoir. I have the kids guess. Can they infer what do we think comment t'appelles-tu meant based on that little skit? So first, they're figuring it out and can feel proud of themselves for having already recognized what the question is. Then we're doing, so checking we know what it means, listening and repeating. Lots of this. Écoutez et répétez. Comment t'appelles-tu? Comment t'appelles-tu? Comment t'appelles-tu? Je m'appelle. Do that a lot. Then, sometimes I might ask anyone in the room. Anyone feel brave enough, and you don't have to, raise your hand if you think you can answer. Comment t'appelles-tu? They start raising their hand. This is something I actually keep track of. So every time they volunteer to answer a question, I put a tick mark on the list. I tell the kids, if you're nervous and you don't feel comfortable doing that, that's okay, because at the end we're going to do an assessment. It's just going to be them and one other person recording themselves on an iPad, doing this dialogue. And I can listen to their French at that point. But what you find is more and more kids want to answer in the moment. And they're hearing all these kids answer. So it's just getting repeated and repeated. Something else I like to do is then the simple rotation. And this is something I use in all my classes, and I try to always keep it the same so that they're used to the rotation. So I have 2 kids in each couple desks. I do it that way on purpose. I have my teacher's desk partner and my library partner. So I say, okay, you've asked, answered, now all my library desk partners are gonna move back 1. Let's do it again. Ask, answer, answer. Move back 1. Ask, answer, ask, answer. They're repeating, they're building confidence. Hopefully, at least, and I tell it to the kids, the expectation is you are helping people politely. At least one time, hopefully they're partnered with someone who is stronger than them and can help guide them. And at least one time, maybe they're partnered with someone who is not as strong as them and they can be helpful. Similar things with Bonjour, comment ça va? I'm gonna go ahead and jump because basically I have slightly different things. I have notes I do for comment ça va. I have little dialogues. I'd love to share that with you. What I think I'm gonna jump to though is when the kids come in at the beginning of every class. So if you wanna come a little closer, Mr. Lauser, I keep track of all the questions on this little sheet. So we started with just the 1, and now we're up to 4 different questions. And so I put this on the front, and I say to them, okay, we're gonna start with comment t'appelles-tu? Raise your hand, and I try and do it in French if you're comfortable doing that. Lève la main si tu peux répondre à la question comment t'appelles-tu? And I take 3, and I tick it off. Don't raise your hand again if you already, but then I say, okay, everyone, écoutez, répétez, comment t'appelles-tu? Comment t'appelles-tu? Je m'appelle, je m'appelle. Now I say, turn to your partner, ask and answer the question, then do a thumb to your chest. So some of them might be scared to talk in front of everyone, but I am essentially forcing them all to speak at least once to their partner. So I know everyone is speaking, and I'm watching and I'm waiting for them to be done. Then we go on to the second question. If you already raised your hand, don't raise it again. I'm gonna ask 3 more people. Lève la main si tu peux répondre à la question comment ça va? And then 3 more people raise their hand and answer je suis bien, je suis malade, whatever. And I take off their names so I have concrete evidence. Yes, these kids are getting it. Écoutez, répétez, listen and repeat. Perfect. Turn to your partner, ask and answer. Perfect. Thumb to your chest. Next question, next question. They are comfortable with this process because we always start the class with it. It takes maybe the first 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how many questions you have. So that's something I really enjoy doing. We're also simultaneously learning some basics. So I always start with the alphabet. If you take one thing away from this little video, it's that you should look up Alain Lelay. If you are not using his French videos yet, you should be. They're hilarious, the kids giggle at them, they're catchy, and I want the songs to get in their head. So just here, one of my favorites is, and I'll just open it for you quickly here. Some of you might have seen this already, the French number videos. Usually I have kids that want to dance. I'll let them dance if they're not too silly, but they're just... The kids like them, and that makes my life easier. So again, I have various different activities I do with each thing. Alphabet, for example, we watch the video. I have a note sheet. What does that look like? It's just the letters.
Bryce Trudell to the office, please.
I have them listen and repeat. And then I have them do the AB partners. So I'll say, okay, teacher's desk partner, you start with A. Library partner, you say B. Then go back and forth. Say, de, F, J, etc. Thumb to your chest when you're done. Then we play things. So different things we're learning just seem to go better with different activities. Hangman works perfect with the alphabet. So that's a nice easy one for that. Numbers, similar things, but instead playing games like bingo. Battleship, now we can do. I'm an A, sank. I also love playing, and I think I might have mentioned this in my math the other day. C'est plus grand que, c'est plus petit que. Bigger than and smaller than. So for French, it depends where I'm at. I think right now we've learned between 1 and I think 60. So I pick a number, and they have to say it in French, obviously. They make a guess. I think it's 35. And then I say, oh, actually it's bigger than 35. My number will pretend they can't see it, but we'll say it's 45. Then someone else guesses 50. So they're seeing me and seeing the number 50. C'est plus petit que 50. It's smaller than 50. I like this game because the winner gets a candy. We talk a lot about not whining if you don't get to win, but it's getting them saying those numbers. I'd love to tell you more about the different activities I do and subjects I do for numbers, colors, days of the week, months of the year, weather, and then the final projects, the little pet thing, and the dialogue, but that would likely take a long time. I could do another video or come see me. Thank you very much. Merci, au revoir.